Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were 4 categories, right? Mm-hmm. So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love. Hi.
Welcome back.
We are so excited that you are here with us on tonight because if it's Monday night,
You're live with KW.
and we are so excited that you could join us live. Maybe you're not joining us live. Maybe you're watching this sometime later. We are so excited that you're on. We're so excited to see Pastor Gibson on here with us tonight. Thank you so very much, Pastor Gibson, for joining us. As a matter of fact, I want for Pastor Gibson to become one of our co-hosts.
Oh, that would be great.
That would be great. I would really love for him to join us on some Monday nights as a co-host. Simone, how was your Monday?
My Monday was pretty good. We're celebrating Memorial Day.
Yes, we do not want for 1 second to forget those who paid the ultimate price so that we can live in the land of the free and the home of the brave in the United States of America. We salute and respect the family members who were left behind. Some child whose dad was killed in war. Some wife who had some chaplain knocked at her door to give bad news that they lost someone. And so we thank the family members for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And you didn't have to go to work today.
I didn't, which was phenomenal.
Celebration.
It
is Celebration Monday. What do you see? You're celebrating not going to work today.
Celebrating not working at the office today.
Yeah, because you did do some work from home.
Yes.
Well, my celebration is futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 days, I got to get my children.
Oh yeah, I think that's a joint celebration.
I think that's
I feel like you have to share that.
I'm excited. Hi, Christine. How are you? I'm also excited because my daughter, Brianna Scott, Christine's niece, will be joining us in a couple of days. I'm really excited. I'm excited about a whole bunch of stuff tonight. I could go on and on and on. I'm excited that you're here with us and that we're going to have a wonderful conversation with our guest on tonight. Been wanting him on here, but we'll introduce him in a second. So what are we doing here?
If you're joining us for the first time, KW Ministries was born from a place of pain, hurt, experiences that we have been socialized to sweep under the rug, to not talk about. And we decided that we weren't going to do that. We were going to use our experiences, the discord that we had in our marriage, the pain that we inflicted on each other, as a means to help other people to be vulnerable about their experiences. And what we have learned in the past, couple of years at this point, what we have learned in the past couple of years at this point is that our stories matter, our experiences matter, our journeys matter, whether we've been at the beginning of somebody's journey, we've been in the middle of somebody's journey, or we've been reflecting on a journey. We have all learned something as we've come into this space. And so to that end, if you're joining us for the first time, what we've done is that we've brought other people in to tell us about their life stories, the things that they have been through, are going through, and in some cases have overcome. I'm thinking of Uncle Tony talking about retirement.
Yes.
So,
and something that he said that has never left me was enjoy your life while you're young.
Yeah.
Because here are the facts. And he talked about a shoulder. And he said he loves going to Jamaica and going to the falls and jumping up. Uncle Tony is very, 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 very active. And he said, what if I hadn't done those things when I was young?
Yeah. Because
I can't do them now.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life. That was really good. Still to date, so I've had a whole bunch of favorites, but Prevette. Man, that girl, that was her resilience. You can go back and put up the YouTube channel on there. You can go back and watch several 2 years worth of episodes. Welcome, Danielle. You watch every night. You never show yourself. Thanks for showing yourself tonight. Sister Remo, I know you're out there, so please go ahead and show yourself and say something. And I know Sister in Florida, I don't see her, but I know you're out there. So welcome everyone. We want for you to join in this wonderful conversation. Before we introduce our guests,
you already know. So before we jump into this fabulous conversation that we are about to have about another engaging, inspirational life. So you want to stay for the whole episode. But before we go there, I want you to jump over to our store, www.kwministries.net/shop. We've got lots of great things in there. Tonight, I kind of feel like highlighting my own product, which is our own product. If you're going through challenges, if you're not sure how to cope with things, there is a wonderful workbook, 8 Skills for Healing, in our store. That one was written by me. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. You know a little bit about what I'm talking about, but we don't get a guidebook for life. So if you want something that might be close to one, this might be it.
You have a personal coach with you. And this is not something you read. This is something you go through and see what you want to do each day. It's really good. It's really, 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 really good, if I want to say so myself. And real quick, I'm celebrating this one because guess what? She's done writing her paper. She's done. All that's left now is the defense, and then she's Dr. Mommy. Oh, I'm excited for her. Okay, our guest tonight is nobody but the Right Reverend Bishop Dr. the Honorable Pastor Quine Cousins. Pastor Cousins is a pastor in the state of Georgia. He pastors a Lighthouse Seventh-day Adventist Church in Ellenwood, Georgia. He's married. He has been pastoring for 11 years. He's a man. I told you we've been wanting on here. He's a man in such great demand that he travels all over the country. He preaches the gospel. His unique story is that he is legally blind. Full disclosure, Pastor Cousins and I went to Oakwood University together, so I know him very well. A man filled with integrity. As a matter of fact, Pastor Gibson that was on before the rest of us said, godly man right there. And he sure is. We're excited to have Pastor Cousins on. So let's bring Pastor Cousins in and welcome him and see what he's celebrating today. Pastor Cousins, how are you?
Well, good evening to all of you, my brothers and sisters. I am just hippopotamus happy and peacock proud to be in this space with you all this evening. You know, I watch you all from time to time, and I must confess that I watch the replays because usually on Monday nights is my I'll just say this: I'm a big wrestling fan. I know wrestling is fake. I know it's fake, but I've been a wrestling fan all my life, and so usually on Monday nights, that's my reprieve where I go into my little man cave, sit in my recliner, and watch wrestling to about 11 o'clock. So I happen to watch your replays during the week, but I'm grateful to be here live with you. See, I love you all because I stepped away from wrestling.
I see. Loud and clear.
Well, we want to tell you thanks, Elder Patterson. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And he's hailing you up, Elder. He's saying, Bishop, that's Elder Robert Patterson that's sending you some love, Pastor Cousins. We are so grateful to you for being here with us tonight and for stepping away from wrestling. I want for us to go on your life's journey because I believe you have such a great story. I believe tonight is going to be inspiring. I believe tonight somebody's going to be set free. Somebody tonight is going to be more determined and intentional about living their very best life. Pastor Cousins, you're legally.
Before you get started, not to cut, but I want to remind you guys, as you are watching, please comment, ask questions. We want you involved in this conversation.
And we have a gift for you at the end. Pastor Cousins, you are legally blind.
That's correct.
Tell us about that.
Well, I was born September 12th, 1976, which is God's month. And so, you know, I know you all love the summer, but September is coming. I'm trying to put it out there. So when I was born with 2 eye diseases. One is cataracts and the other is glycomia. Now, I used to say glaucoma, but I'm married to a school teacher, and so when you're married to an educator, a school teacher, they correct you on certain things. So I had to use the proper word glycomia, and so I was born with both of those. My cataracts were removed, as my mother has said, when I was 3 months old, but I still live today with glycomia. And just to give like a brief definition of what it is, it's a disease where the pressure in your eyes go up, and so I constantly go to the doctor to have my pressure checked. The only way you can stabilize it is through eye drops, and I also wear glasses. And my glasses used to be very thick back in the day, Coca-Cola bottle glasses, but technology has increased to and fro, and so but God is good, and He's worthy to be praised.
What age? Let's go to childhood and let's start there. When did you realize that you weren't seeing? At what age did you realize that you weren't seeing like everybody else? And what was that experience like? Take us to your childhood and walk with us from when you first realized, wait a minute, there's something different about my eyes.
Oh wow, I would say probably, if my memory serves me correctly, I would say probably around 3 years old, 3 or 4 ish, um, to realize I didn't have regular eyes like a normal person, and so I would have trouble seeing things, realizing that I can only see out of one eye, which is my right eye. My left eye has is total light perception, some colors, no shadow, and so that's my left eye. My right eye is what is considered the good eye, and so I started noticing this probably around 3 or 4 years old.
And what was that like? What was that experience like?
It was it was when you are a child, you really don't really understand at that age. You know, you 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 seem as if you are normal, and so for me, what I've always done is learn how to navigate independently.
Hmm.
And I have friends who are legally blind, and where there's total dependency on someone else. I praise God that I did not become legally blind. Well, totally blind. So I was totally blind, not legally, totally blind. I have friends who are totally blind, and so when you're totally blind, you can't see anything. So you have to depend on other individuals, to be able to help you navigate some of the things in life. And so for me, I learned very early on. My mother um, taught me that you don't control, you don't allow your vision or your handicap to control you. You control it, and by controlling it, she taught me how to be independent as possible. As
All
much
right, hold on, because that's a big bomb, and Kamala wants to explore that. Your mom said, here's the hashtag, and you don't allow your handicap to control you, you control it.
correct.
At what point in your experience did your mom share that with you?
I want to say when I was about 5 years old. When I was about 5 years old. I mean, I experienced a life, you know, growing up, being talked about, bullied, um, people picking on me because of my vision and stuff of that, things of that nature. But she taught me how to have an independency to the point where people don't realize you have a vision impairment unless you say something.
Yeah.
All right, but Doc, you're gone. I want first to stay right here for a second, though. I want you to explore. You don't allow your handicap to control you. You control it because we're talking about blindness
Sure.
in you. All of us are handicapped in some way.
Hmm.
All of us
Hmm.
are handicapped in some way. Most of us on here watching right now are black people. That's our handicap. Immediately living in the United States of America, our handicap
Right.
is immediately
Right.
you're black.
Right.
Then my wife is a female. That's a handicap.
Hmm.
So all of us have a handicap.
Right.
What I want to talk about is your mom said to you, don't allow your handicap to control you. You control it at 5 years old. What did you hear then? I want for you to take us. We have 3 people in the studio right now. Rather, we have 4 people in the studio right now. We have Kamala, we have Winston, we have Pastor Cousins, and we have Pastor Cousins at 5. I want for you to introduce us to Pastor Cousins at 5. As mom is saying to you, don't allow your handicap to control you. You control it. And tell us how you received that and how you use that as a coping skill as you come through life. Just to introduce us to Quine Cousins at 5, as your
Well,
mom is telling you this.
well. One of the things that she said to me, that still resonates with me today, is that you can do anything anybody else can, um, except drive a car. Don't put me behind the wheel because she said, but you can do anything anybody else can. Um, and don't allow people to dictate what you can and cannot do, because society will put a label on you, especially when you have a disability. Having disability, you can be overlooked, you can be underappreciated. Having disability, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later in my ministry years, because I got a whole lot to say about that. But what my mom taught me at 5 years old is that don't hold your head down because you have a disability that can't be fixed. I don't care how many surgeries you may have in life, it's not going away. And so don't hold your head down. She said to me, I want you to be able to navigate through life knowing that I can be as humanly, as normal as possible to be able to navigate at 5 years old. Um, and when I say that, I mean, not having nobody to walk me to class, not having nobody to read stuff for me or do things for me. Um, um, I learned Braille at 5 years old, and so for me, um, that was a very kicker for me. And I promise you all, as I became a teenager and an adult, um, those words over 40 some years ago that was said to me and birthed inside of me still resonates even today.
You know, let's be careful. Here's what I'm taking away right now.
Yeah.
Let's be careful of the words that we use to people.
Absolutely.
Because mom planted those words in her, and she could have planted other words in her. But what Pastor just said was those words that mom planted in her from a child has stayed with him. Then, Kamala, I heard something else that I want for you to explore a little bit. Mom said, accept your situation. At 5 years old, mom said, this isn't going to change.
Yep.
No matter how many surgery you do.
Yep.
She taught him acceptance.
Yes. Yes. Which I think is such an important piece. No matter, I don't know what your situation is, you who are listening, no matter what your situation is, or no matter what, if it's a disability that's a part of your story,
Mhm.
it's so important that piece on acceptance. Without acceptance, I can't really move forward. Without acceptance, I can stay stuck in the resentment of or the frustration.
And acceptance does not mean agree with.
No. And I like that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of us think that acceptance means I agree with
or
this.
I like or I support.
Right, but that's not what it means. It's an acknowledgement of what
Is.
and now what am I going to do with this?
So your mom got you to acknowledge, here is what is. How did you now, once you accepted, well, let me ask you, did you accept that you were blind and are going to be blind? When did you accept that? When did you decide, all right, this is my handicap? And when did you decide that you're accepting that?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It took me a while to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
It took. I mean, even at 5 years old, you're five. So, you know, mom saying it to you, okay, mom, no problem. You know, but as you as I begin to become older
Mm-hmm.
and be more independent
Mm-hmm.
and realizing that, hey, even though my mom said this to me, society says something different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the mind changes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then you start hearing you can't do XYZ.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, I would say beginning my teenage years,
Mm-hmm.
um, it started to hit me. And I give you one example
Mm-hmm.
of how it really, really hit me. When I was in high school, um, I I wanted to go to Morehouse. I want
Mm-hmm.
no Oakwood is the best school on the planet, you know.
I agree. I
But
concur.
but before I became a 7 Day Adventist, and
Mm-hmm.
before I knew anything about Oakwood University, I wanted to be a Morehouse College man.
Man.
I Dr. King was my idol. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and in the '90s, people want to be like Michael Jordan. Man, I wanted that Dr. King spirit. I did, you
Hmm.
know, and
No, no,
so
no. Hold on. Let me back up. You have that Dr. King spirit, brother. Let's be clear.
well,
You
praise God,
have that Dr. King spirit.
well,
Sorry.
praise God. But for me, when I went to high school, um, I was in special education classes. Well, let me back up. When I started grade school,
Mm-hmm.
I was in special education classes, and I rode the short yellow bus.
Mhm.
Now, there's a difference between the short yellow bus and the long yellow bus.
Mm-hmm.
The short yellow bus had a certain number of kids on the bus, and the long yellow bus had everybody on the bus. So for me, riding the short yellow bus, the bus came directly to my house versus me having to walk to the bus stop.
Mhm.
Okay. And so from kindergarten all the way through high school, I was in special education classes,
Mm-hmm.
because it took me a while to comprehend some things,
Mhm.
and so I had an IEP. If any teachers in the room and teachers watching, you know what an individualized educational plan is.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's considered an IEP. So I had one of those. And so that labeled me different from normal children. And
Mm-hmm.
so normal children who were in regular mainstream classes picked on me, bullied me, said I was dumb, I was ignorant, I was special ed, and to the point where when I got to high school, and I started believing that. Even though mom told me allow your disability not to control you, you control it. But when you become a certain age, it gets to you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
It messes with your psyche. And so for me, I started to believe what other kids were saying about me. I started to believe what certain teachers would say about me. In fact, when I went to high school and as I began to prepare myself to go to college, because again, I want to go to Morehouse, one of my teachers said to me, when you graduate from high school, you're only going to get a special education diploma. Now, let me get some context to that. During the time when I was in high school, a special education diploma only meant that you went to school for 12 years. When I was in school, a special education diploma said no college will accept you. And so when a teacher told me that because I'm getting a special education diploma, I might as well just go and work for 5 years or for the rest of my life. You know, don't even think about going to college. So my hope of going to Morehouse went down the drain because in my mind, y'all, I believed I would never go to college because that was planted in me. I would never go to college, even though Mama said at 5 years old. Now, mind you, from 5 up until high school, I still controlled my disability. I still acted normal. I still tried to find ways to fit in, but my life was put on hold because I believed a lie.
Pastor, I want to pause you right there because I know that whether we've got somebody who's watching tonight or somebody who will watch on a non-wrestling night, there's somebody watching who they have a disability. They have an IEP. Somebody has told them something about themselves that is a lie. What would you say to that person in this moment as you reflect on that period in your life?
Two things. Well, one of my favorite Bible verses in the Bible is I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. My other favorite verse in the Bible is he that begins a greater work in you will finish it until the day of Jesus Christ. Society will always label you because of your situation. They will always put you in the back of the bus. They will always sit you in the back row. But the God that you serve says, no, I got ways of putting you on the front row and yet on the stage. And then it even allow you to sit in certain spaces. So I would say to that person who has a disability, and right now you struggling because you like, man, I don't know what's gonna happen in my life. I don't know how my outcome, how the outcome of my life is going to be. Listen, the same God, and this may sound like a cliche, but you have to trust in the same God that I trusted in. If God says it, He's gonna do it.
Yeah.
He's gonna do it. And so my challenge is this: don't allow society to tell you what you cannot do. Because I'm gonna tell y'all something. When I was told I could not go to college, I want y'all to know that was motivation for me.
Hey, that's what I want to hear about now. Let's hear it.
That was motivation for me. God will always put you in situations when you get motivated to do what somebody said
You can't do.
See, I noticed an interview out, so I'm gonna start preaching in a minute.
Yeah, you go for it, man.
I'm a preacher. That's all I can do. But what I know is this: once I was told I couldn't go to college, And once I believed that story for 5 years, let me tell you what God did. Let me tell you what God did in that moment. So I started working for McDonald's, flipping hamburgers, dropping French fries. God took a visually impaired, legally blind person who started with McDonald's, who started as a crew member, who worked their way up to a team leader, who then went from a team leader to a shift manager,
Yes.
who then went from a shift manager to a second assistant manager,
Yes.
who then went from a second assistant to a first assistant manager,
Yes.
and then he went from a first assistant to a store manager. So
Yes.
I'm telling you, this is what God can do.
Yes.
When others say, "Hey, it ain't gonna work for you," you might just go ahead and just find a job. You ain't going to college. God did all of that for me and then some. Listen, He blew my mind, man. God absolutely blew my mind.
So
And
let's
so,
let's
go
back
ahead,
up for a second, Doc. Okay.
go
This
ahead,
is
go ahead.
good. This is good. This is good. Let's back
I
up for a
told you I'm
second.
a preacher.
No, listen, that's what we want you to do. Let's back up for a second. So you're in school, you're being bullied. Talk to us a little bit about how you handle. Well, better than that. Don't do that. Talk to. Look at young Quinn now, because their parents are here whose children are being bullied. So I want you to look at young Quinn and talk to him. Talk to those parents of children who are being bullied. How to maneuver, how to get through that ugliness, that darkness. You can share with us how you got through it, but just looking back now, give some talk to some folk who are being bullied about how to hold on and keep going.
Well, for me, I have to be honest. Back in my day when I was younger, I have two older brothers. Um, and my older brothers taught me how to fight. Okay, I'm not saying use violence because
You're just
vi-
saying you learned how to fight.
listen, violence is never the answer. Okay, but but and I must say,
There was some
I
WWE on the playground.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. But but I would say that if you are in a season where your child's been bullied, as a parent, have a conversation with your child, you know, um, and get involved with
Mm-hmm.
with what's going on in the school. Certainly, my parents did
Mm-hmm.
because when I got home and said XYZ, you know, my mom and my dad was at the school
Mm-hmm.
like the next day. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna need Johnny to leave my boy alone because if
That's
you don't
right.
don't leave my boy alone, it's gonna be some problems, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so, but we live in an age where even is bullying is taking the lives of
It
individuals,
is.
and so um, confide in someone that you trust, you know, that will encourage you to do the right thing and speak up
Mm-hmm.
and tell someone, hey, this is happening to me, and it won't stop, you know. And so that's my advice.
You
um
know, what we have three children, Pastor, and my children, Gabby. We just spoke to Gabby last about 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and Gabby was telling us, she had a bad day at school, and she used some big words we didn't understand. But so she had a bad day at school. What happened, Gabby? Some boy said to her, "You ruined my day." How'd you ruin my day? Because Gabby told on him. My children learned that the only thing that give bullies life is secrecy.
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
Tell,
mhm,
tell, tell my children are tattletales.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to tell everything because we have convinced them that the only way we can help them is if we know what's going on.
Absolutely. And because society says you shouldn't snitch.
Right.
Absolutely.
But
Right.
but when something is going on with you, you need to snitch.
That's right.
My wife's a teacher, and so and she teaches her kids all the time. Hey, uh, snitching can get you out of some situations that you should not even be in.
That's right.
And so be a good snitch.
That's right.
Tell somebody.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And parents, we need to create cultures where our children are comfortable
Right.
in coming to us and
Right.
talking to us, and then you go to school and raise hell.
Yeah.
Right.
You hear me?
Right.
You go to school and raise hell.
That's right.
They are responsible to protect your children.
That's
Don't
right.
take this about they accept certain level of bullying. Under not with my child, you don't.
Right.
And you are Kamala wrote the principal and the teacher and told them, listen, at my job, if this stuff was going on, it would call harassment. Do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they do. But you have to show up for your children. You have to protect your children. I heard one of the saddest stories I know is I pastored a church where a dad told me that for years his daughter was eating her lunch in the bathroom because of what children were doing.
Wow. Wow.
And if and but you need to create an environment where children are comfortable in telling you everything that's going on, even if you have a good cop, bad cop situation. So my children will tell my wife everything that they won't tell me, and then Irene probably watching.
While we're talking about this really important topic of saying something, I find myself having the thought that we also have to pay attention to how we promote secrecy in our families and as
Exactly.
churches.
That's true. That's very true.
Because we have a culture of silence.
Exactly.
We have a culture of just pray about it.
Yes.
Which,
yes.
No, we're not saying there's anything wrong with prayer, but sometimes the idea that we give people is that is the only
There is something wrong with no. There is something wrong with that prayer because that prayer is not prayer.
Mm-hmm.
That prayer is a cover up.
Right.
So you
Right.
don't
That's what you don't
say what's going on.
Yes.
And
Right.
what we taught our children that is you don't have any secrets for us. Anything we don't want them to say, we make sure they don't know. But we make sure they understand you, my 15-year-old to this day will tell you. Daddy told her, if I ever touch you inappropriately, you go scream to the top of your lungs. If anything is going on that you're not comfortable with, go tell your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Go tell your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And her doctor puts us out of the room and talk to her. Don't let your children grow up in a systematic, secret, intentional with keeping secrets. That's going to damage them. Allow them to speak their truth. Pastor, the next question I want to ask you, because you approach life with a biblical worldview. When did you develop a sensitivity to spiritual things? And walk us through that development.
Well, I started preaching at 5 years old. So I was the one that God used to introduce my mom to Jesus. So we were living in a certain area here in Atlanta, because I'm born and raised here from Atlanta, and I would go to church with my neighbors at the time, and one of my and the neighbor I went to church with became my Sunday school teacher. And so I would come home, talking about Jesus,
Mhm.
and my mom finally caught on and was like, let me go to this church, see what they doing to this boy.
Mhm.
And so she got hooked. But
Yes.
but my first congregation as a child was the backyard of my house.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
the rocks,
Come on. Come
the
on.
grass, the trees, the car in the
Yes.
yard.
Yes.
My first physical member was my German Shepherd named Buddy,
Yes.
and Buddy only came to church when it was Communion Sunday. Okay, so because Buddy knew we were gonna eat something, and unbeknown to me, Buddy would actually sit and listen to me preach and sing. I don't sing now, but and clap my hands for a whole hour and some change until it was time for communion.
Mhm.
And so that was my first member. And so I started preaching at the age of 5 years old. And that's how I became in love with with preaching and getting close to God. Of course, when I did that for a long time, and then when I became a teenager, when you become a teenager, other stuff attract you.
Mhm.
And so I started smelling myself,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know,
Literally.
literally. And so I don't like to use the word I backslid, because God was always in the forefront. Even me doing some things that I did, the Bible says the things we do, we don't do. The places we
Mhm.
go, we don't go. And so that was my teenage years. I went to places I shouldn't have went. I did some things I should have done. But but ministry and pastoring and preaching was always in the back of my mind.
Mhm.
And so God did a full circle and brought it back to me in high
Hold on,
school.
hold on, hold on, because I don't want you to go too far. I want Kamala. Could you do something? I want you to talk to us for a minute, because clinically, what I heard there was the power of imagination. So could you talk to us about the allowing children the space to imagine, to so imagination is a place where you can do anything, you can accomplish anything.
Mhm.
It's also that place where all of the influences of the external come in and kind of influence us. And so it's such an important place, such an important opportunity for parents and caregivers and people in life, in the lives of children, to really make good impact and give the room and space for that imagination to grow, for those dreams to happen. In the same way when we dream as kids, the same way we dream as adults, right? Mm-hmm. The same way we have ideas about what we want to be and how to do it as kids, the same way we have it as adults. And so the messages that we get in those formative years can really shape how we use imagination later on. If that gets tampered down, exactly, then when I'm older, probably I'm going to be less likely to feel like I can dream and accomplish. But if I've learned that I can dream and see myself do that, then just sky's the limit.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
So you get to high school, and your journey takes an additional life. You start having more life experiences, and you're told that you can't go to college, and so you don't go straight to college. You spend some time where God is teaching you leadership. Oh, hallelujah.
Correct.
Where
Correct.
God is teaching you how to manage people and how to manage business and how to do stuff.
Absolutely.
When does it dawn on you? Wait a minute, that was a lie. I can go to college. Where were you? We want to see what we want to see before you answer that. Why do you think about that? Well, let me ask it so you can think about it. When it hit you, when you heard, wait a minute, that was a lie. That's not true. I can go to college. Where were you? What were you smelling? What were you tasting? What were you touching? What was happening around you
when you heard, and what was the impact on you? While you're thinking about that, Christine said, teachers are bullying children now. It's like the norm. I don't play that kind of game. Be present in your children's schools. Be present in your children's life. Be present. Be there. Be there. You are their guardians. You are their protectors. No, we don't play that. Nobody's gonna bully our children. We don't play that. All right, Doc, talk to us. Where were you? What was it like when you realized, wait a minute, it's a lie. I can't go to college.
So let me just give you where I was, because me realizing I can go to college started when I became an Adventist. So let me back up and
Yes.
take you through the journey first.
Yes, sir.
Before I became a Seventh-day Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in high school, I was on my way to becoming a Baptist preacher.
Mm-hmm. MLK.
It was for me. I was gonna be Baptist. I was Baptist born.
Baptist bread.
I was Baptist bred, and just as sure as I died, I was gonna be Baptist dead. Okay, that was nothing in the world could not take me. That was the plan. That was my plan. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Because nothing in the world could not take me away from the Baptist church. You know, I mean, Baptist all the way. So I was a minister in a Baptist context. It's kind of like the Seventh-day Adventist context. When you become an intern, you're a pastor, and then when you become ordained, they call you elder. So in the Baptist context, you are a minister before you become a reverend. So I was a minister, and this was during high school years. In the year 1998, I was on my way. I was on a track for ordination to come from a licensed minister to an ordained minister. And I moved into a certain area in Atlanta where my next door neighbor happened to be a Seventh-day Adventist. My mom moved into this part of town in '96. I graduated from high school in '96. So this is a 2-year relationship. When I met my neighbor, my Adventist neighbor in '96, and so we built the relationship with each other. He wasn't the type of person that just threw a Bible study in my hand. He didn't belittle me for going to church on Sunday. He didn't say I was going to church on the wrong day. He didn't try to throw doctrine in front of my face. He exhibited Christ to me.
Yes.
He literally, and this is what I tell my church: if we're gonna witness the people, we got to use the methods of Jesus. We got to follow. Ellen White says Christ's methods alone bring true success, and so we have to exhibit Christ's methods alone. And so my neighbor exhibited Christ's methods alone. He met my need. He desired my good. Then he bade me come follow Jesus. Right. And so this went on for 2 years. So because I was determined that I was going to be Baptist, a Baptist preacher. I thought Adventist was crazy for going to church on Saturday. I was like, I promise you all, I said to myself, I will never go to church on Saturday. I thought y'all was the most crazy folk in the world going to church on Saturday. But again, that was my plan. But God had another plan. And so what happened was I was getting off of work one day and somebody put a flyer in my hand. And it was a flyer of my now father in the ministry, Calvin Watkins Sr. It was doing a revival. I went to the revival, and lo and behold, I got baptized. I became a Seventh-day Adventist. But to answer your question, Pastor Taylor, about how did I discover I could not go to college? How did I discover that I can now go to college? Was when in the year of 1999 into 2000, Naps came to my church
Mm.
and talked about Oakwood.
Mm.
And I said to myself, wow, I can do this.
Mm.
Now, mind you, in my head,
Yes, sir.
it was, you never go to college,
Mm-hmm.
won't no college except your special education diploma.
Mm-hmm.
But when Naps came to my church in 1999, year 2000, I can't remember when it was, and did a presentation, I was like, I got to go to this school.
Yes.
Like, I got to go. But in the back of my mind, y'all, it was, you never go to college. So fast forward, my AY leader at that time, her name was Angela Oldham at the time. She set me down at her kitchen table and she told me, you going to college.
Yes, sir.
And she helped me to fill out my application to go to Oakwood.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in the back of my mind, because it was instilled in me, you'll never go to college. So I was like, okay, I'll do the application. But when they look at my stuff and my diploma, they ain't gonna accept me.
No,
Now,
hold on, preach. You know, there's a preach right there, right?
of
There's a
course
preach.
it is.
When they look at my stuff, they're not going to accept me. You know, there's a preach right there.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Of course it is. But but and I even told my mom I'm going to college. She's like, boy, you ain't going to college. You ain't going to college. She couldn't believe it at first. Not and because I never told my mom that somebody told me I never go to college. So she never knew this. She just assumed in her mind, oh, you ain't going to college. Boy, quit playing. You just playing around, just joking around. But when Oakwood sent me a letter,
Yes. Yes, sir.
it said congratulations.
Yes, sir.
And all I need for somebody to do,
Mm-hmm.
if you got haters telling you can't do nothing, you need to send them a 2-letter email that says thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because God is sending me a congratulations letter in the mail.
That's right.
So here it is. I finally went to college. Okay? Special education diploma. Was told you never go to college. But let me back up. It's all a part of God's plan because even in McDonald's, God was teaching me leadership skills.
Yes.
Think about that for a moment now.
Yes.
God was teaching me servant leadership.
Yes. Yes.
God was teaching me organizational leadership.
Yes.
God was teaching me administrative leadership.
Yes.
In that whole moment, that whole 5-year period, God was teaching me all this stuff. And so when I got to Oakwood, I spent 10 years at Oakwood. I mean, everybody came, gone, left me. Even Winston. Winston came to Oakwood. Pastor Taylor came to Oakwood, left me. Everybody left me at Oakwood. It was okay. So after I graduated, I worked at Kroger.
Yes.
I was a bagger. I bagged groceries.
Yes.
3 years.
Yes.
What are you saying, Pastor Cousins? I'm glad you asked the question because when I was at McDonald's, God taught me organizational leadership. God taught me servant leadership. God taught me administrative leadership. When I was at Kroger, God taught me how to deal with people.
Yep.
And God says, if you cannot deal with people on this level, I can't put you in nobody's church. Because you're gonna be a train wreck to the church and to yourself. And so God had to place me at Kroger for 3 years after Oakwood to help develop me. And my wife said something to me that blessed me a couple years ago. She said to me, she said, even though you were at Oakwood for a long period of time, that was your wilderness experience.
Mm.
Like God even used that time to shape you and mold you and chisel you and do some stuff that to refine you, you know. And so when I look at that experience and what God has done back then and what God is doing now, it's full circle, y'all. Full circle. It's full circle,
Full
man.
circle.
It's mind blowing, head swimming, undescribable blessings.
Pastor Cousins, walk us to your first day on Oakwood's college campus. Walk with us around there. We only have first of all, will you come back and talk to us again?
Oh,
Because this is not the
absolutely,
end. Okay, good. Because we
absolutely.
only so
We do
listen.
part two.
I'm not rushing this at all. This is good stuff. How I'd like for us to end tonight is I want for the boy that they told would never go to college to walk with us his first day on Oakwood's campus.
I ride that Oakwood January 7th, 2001
Mm-hmm.
on a Sunday rainy evening.
Yes, sir.
One thing about being having a disability, and I'm sure Sister Winston can Sister Taylor, excuse me, can can relate to this being a therapist. When you have a disability, when one sense doesn't work properly,
Mm-hmm.
others do.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
so um God has given me great memory of things.
Mm-hmm.
Even though my vision doesn't work like I want it to, God has allowed me to have great memory. So I arrived at Oakwood January 7th, 2001, on a rainy, cold day in Huntsville. It was an adjustment. I was 23 years old and I left my mama's house. So it was an adjustment. It was a major adjustment because, I'm on my own now. I'm on my own. And even though I was independent when I lived in my mom's house, but I was literally on my own at that moment. And so I had to make those necessary adjustments. Meeting people from all over the world was
Mm-hmm.
amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Oakwood afforded me the opportunity to go to Africa, Jamaica, and all these other places. And
Mm-hmm.
so having lifelong friends. Um, and I would say this, it was a challenge because me being a visually impaired individual, Oakwood at the time didn't have the techniques or the resources to be able to accommodate my need.
Mm.
And so at for the first year, I had to navigate during that season. Um and by navigating during that season, I failed some classes. I
Mm-hmm.
did. I failed some classes.
Mm-hmm.
I got on academic probation
Mm-hmm.
during that time because once again, I was fresh. I wasn't fresh out of high school
Mm-hmm.
going into a college. I graduated from high school in '96.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to college in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
College was totally different from high school. Um, you didn't have the opportunity to go to your teachers when you wanted to, like I did in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember I remember going into a psychology class, and when I got to class, the teacher was like, "Okay, let's go. Let's start chapter one." I'm like, "What? This first day of class." So it was a challenge for me at first,
Mm-hmm.
but as time progressed and time got on, things got smoother and got better.
Mhm.
And I would say that those are the best years of my life, and I would not trade it for the world.
Doc, we're gonna rest there. And okay, we'll pick up our chat in text. But don't leave, don't go anywhere. My takeaway from tonight, I hear resilience.
Yes, that was mine.
I hear don't believe what people tell you. I heard trust God. I heard know God for yourself. I heard community again. You talked about the AY leader saying you are going to college. Um, Dr. Paul has been so instrumental in so many of our lives, and we want to give him a shout out there.
Hmm.
Again, we've heard determination, Christine. There has just been so much in here that you can take away from from this conversation. But again, don't allow your disability to control you. You control it. You have to learn how to. This whole idea of navigating life. We didn't explore that. Going around. That's what navigating is, literally going around, bypassing, figuring out how to go around acceptance. This was powerful. This was rich. All of us have a disability.
Hmm.
All of us have a disability.
Hmm.
And I hope tonight you heard don't allow that thing to control you. You control it. And okay, who are we giving a prize to tonight?
Daniel Woods, you are our winner tonight.
Daniel Woods, you are our winner tonight. Head over to kwministries.net/claim your prize. It's coming up right now. kwministries.net/claim your prize. And you can claim your prize. Enjoy what you have. Daniel is actually one of our students in the seminar. Daniel, you need to send us some feedback and let us know how it's going for you. Thank you so much for hanging out. I know you're here every night. You just don't come on the thing. So see, you came on, and the first night you came on, you won. Thank you, Dan. We really appreciate you. To all of you, we genuinely, Kamala and I genuinely appreciate you spending your Monday nights with us. We know you get something out of it, but you could have gotten something out of several other things, wrestling or the like. Um, but we're really, really thankful to you for hanging out with us tonight.
If you were not a winner tonight, you can still win by going to our website, www.kwministries.net/shop. Check out the store, guys. There's so much that you can gain, not just because it's our store, guys, but because we want to share with you the experiences that we've had and the experiences that have helped us on our journey. Not at the end yet, but the things that have helped us on our journey. We want the same for you. So check out our store.
Pastor, take 2 seconds. Give us the last word.
Well, I would say first of all, let me. I want to thank you all for having me on, man. It was my pleasure to come on, and hopefully, if we can do a part two to this, I could kind of share with you how
Not if, when.
how
No,
navigate.
it's a matter of when. It's not going to be tomorrow because we're booked up all the way to July. But Anniken's going to write you right now. She's going to write you. She's probably has already written you. So
Well,
yes, it's a matter of when.
when we have another session, I hope I can be able to share with you how I'm navigating ministry with a vision impairment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
yes.
that's another conversation for another day. But I want to thank you all for coming. But for those out there who are listening and watching this or want to rewatch the rebroadcast of this, I just want to say that you are God's masterpiece.
Woo!
Yes.
Hallelujah.
You are God's masterpiece. You are enough. And because you are God's masterpiece, eyes have not seen,
Yes.
ears have not heard, nor
Yes.
has it entered in the plans that God has in store for you.
Yes.
God has purposed each and every one of us to do something. And whatever your hand finds to do, even with a disability. Do it to your might, to y'all all your might.
Sister Tanya Chambers, you are God's masterpiece. Kamala, if it's Monday night.
You're live with KW.
Peace.